I'd like to welcome all of you here this evening. One of the reasons I've come here, and this is a tremendous institution, but this institution believes in a liberal ideology, it believes in discussion, it believes in listening to people, it believes in conversations. And you have a tremendous history, and I respect that history. The idea of nonviolence, or ahimsa, as we call it in India, is what has allowed this huge mass of people to rise up together. Uniting India's religions, castes, and languages would simply be impossible without it. It is this idea that Mahatma Gandhi fashioned into a powerful but beautiful political weapon. The common conception in the West is that people have ideas. You all say, I have an idea. But there's an alternative way of looking at the world. The counterintuitive notion that instead of people having ideas, that ideas have people. So instead of I have an idea has me. This notion is the basis of ahimsa or non-violence as taught by Gandhi. If one accepts the notion that ideas capture people, then the only possible response to a person infected by a bad idea, any person, is love and compassion. The only action you can take against him is to try and rid him of the bad idea and replace it with a good one. This non-violent philosophy in action has traveled far beyond India. Non-violence is not inaction, Cesar Chavez said. It is not discussion. It is not for the timid and weak. Non-violence is hard work. It is this very idea, this beautiful struggle, that is viciously under attack in India today. But it is also the only idea on which humanity can survive the connectivity of the 21st century and come out unscathed stronger. For everything everyone says about India, there is no democratic country in human history, and I'll repeat that, there is no democratic country in human history that has raised as many people out of poverty as India has. It has never been done. And we have not done it with violence. We've not done it by killing people. We have done it peacefully together. For the first time in our history, India, if it is steered correctly and faithfully, has the opportunity to wipe out poverty. If India is able to lift another 350 million people out of poverty by 2030, it would be an achievement of which the human race can be proud. Doing this will require us to grow at more than 8% over the next 13 years. India has done it before and can do it again. India is a democratic country, and unlike China, it has to create jobs in a democratic environment. India does not have, and nor does it want, China's coercive instruments. We cannot follow their model of massive factories controlled by fear. Jobs in India are going to come instead from small and medium scale industry. India needs to turn colossal numbers of small and medium businesses into international companies. Currently, all the attention in India is paid to the top 100 companies. Everything is geared towards them. Banking systems are monopolized by them. The doors of government are always open to them, and laws are shaped by them. Meanwhile, entrepreneurs running small and medium businesses struggle to get bank loans. They have no protection and no support. Yet these small and medium businesses are the bedrock of India and the world's innovation. Big businesses can easily manage the unpredictability of India. They're protected by their deep, deep pockets and connections. But the real innovative strength of India lies with the millions of small firms and young entrepreneurs that run them. I've given you the positives. So before I end, I need to tell you what can go dangerously wrong. Our strength so far has been that we have done all this peacefully. What can destroy our momentum is the opposite energy: hatred, anger, and violence, and the politics of polarization, which has raised its ugly head in India today. Violence and hatred distract people from the task at hand. Liberal journalists being shot, people being lynched because they are Dalits, Muslims killed on suspicion of eating beef. This is new in India and damages India very badly. The politics of hate divides and polarizes India, making millions of people feel that they have no future in their own country. Ignoring India's tremendous institutional knowledge and taking ad hoc decisions is reckless and dangerous. Decisions like demonetization, which removed 86% of cash from circulation overnight and was carried out unilaterally without asking the chief economic advisor, the cabinet, or even parliament, imposes a devastating cost on India. Currently, we are not producing enough jobs. 30,000 new youngsters are joining the job market every single day. 30,000. And yet, the government is only creating 500 jobs a day. And this does not include the massive pool of already unemployed youngsters. The decline in economic growth today is worrying and is leading to an upsurge of anger in the country. The government's economic policies, demonetization, and a hastily applied GST have caused tremendous damage. Millions of small businesses were simply wiped out as a result of demonetization. Farmers and manual laborers who use cash were hit extremely hard. Agriculture is in deep distress, and farmer suicides have skyrocketed across the country. Demonetization, a completely self-inflicted wound, caused approximately 2% loss in India's GDP. India cannot afford to grow and create jobs at the current rate. If we continue at the current rate, if India cannot give the millions of people entering the job market employment, anger will increase, and it has the potential to derail what has been built so far. That will be catastrophic for India and the world beyond it. Thank you.
This is Berkeley, and there are people outside who are protesting your presence here because they say, you know, you were a child when the riots in Delhi happened in 1984, but there still remains a sense of unease and dissatisfaction among the Sikh community that justice has not been served.
You know, I was 14 years old, and I was in my geography class. And I got a phone call in school that I should come home. And I went home, and my grandmother had been shot 32 times. But what many people don't know was that the people who shot my grandmother, her bodyguards, were my friends. And I used to play badminton with them. So on one day, I saw my grandmother shot, and I saw my friends shot. I understand what violence does. And it doesn't matter against who it's done. As I said in my speech, violence against anybody is wrong. And I condemn it. And I fully support any action that is taken against anybody who's carried out violence. In fact, I'm with them in their quest for justice. 100%.
There's a fair bit of corruption in India, and your party is, for right or wrong, been stigmatized by it. So what do you think should be done to actually address this issue?
There's two things. One of the things that we did was the right to information. And what the right to information did was massively increase transparency. So a lot of the problem that we faced was actually because of a massive increase in transparency that we created, which, by the way, Mr. Modi has shut down. So Mr. Modi has basically clamped down on the RTI, on the right to information. So the amount of information that was flying around in our time is simply not flying around. So one reason we got into quite a lot of trouble was because we dramatically increased the amount of transparency. But if you want to take on corruption in India, corruption happens because of arbitrary centralized power. You have to crack arbitrary centralized power. You have to decentralize power. Unless you decentralize power, you're not going to take on the corruption issue.
Are you ready to now take charge in executive role in the Congress party?
I'm absolutely ready to do that. But the way our party works, we have an organizational election process that decides that. And that process is currently ongoing. So we have an internal system where we elect certain delegates who make that decision. So for me to say that decision is mine, that wouldn't be very fair. That's a decision that the Congress party has to make, and that's a process that's currently going on right now.
But you are open to it?
Yeah, sure.
Great.
But that idea that the Congress is delegative and there are discussions actually runs counter to the common perception, at least among the media and among academics and among lots of people and among this audience which wants to know, but isn't the Congress party associated with more dynastic politics?
What you see is okay. Actually, most parties in India have that problem. So don't give us stick because Mr. Akhilesh Yadav is a dynast, Mr. Stalin is a dynast, Mr. Dhummal's son is a dynast. So, even Abhishek Bachchan is a dynast. I mean, that's how India runs. So I mean, don't get after me because that's how the entire country is running. By the way, last I recall, Mr. Ambani's kids were running their business. And that was also going on in Infosys, right? So that's what happens in India. But saying that, I do try to sort of change it in the Congress party.
A lot of people in this room itself would love to get involved with politics in India, public sector policy making in some form or the other. Doesn't have to be 24/7, but they'd love to get involved and are unable to figure out what's the best route to do that without having family backing. So what is your suggestion to those people?
That gentleman sitting there, Shashi Tharoor, he is, and if you're in the United States, Sam Petroda there. Shashi Tharoor has recently taken over a new organization that the Congress is building called the Professionals Congress. Anybody who is interested in joining politics but not through the sort of directly elected system can go and talk to him.
You've had a lot of internal reforms you've tested out, one of them being the primaries at the local level. But some of them have run into roadblocks, many of them, in fact. And you also attributed to the struggles of navigating between the young and the old. And have you found that being a big issue and roadblock for you as you've gone ahead with your reform agenda in the Congress?
My earlier approach was that one should push young people regardless. I still believe that as many young people as possible should be pushed forward. But there's tremendous talent in the Congress party with some of our senior people. It's a mix. It's trying to make both these systems work together, both young and old work together.
Just exactly what the Congress stands for, that messaging is getting lost as it reaches voters?
No, I don't. I think I think for us, we have never had a top-down vision. So you know where Narega came from? Narega came from a district in Maharashtra. A junior Congress guy in a district found a collector doing Narega. And he was like, wait a minute, this sounds interesting. And then it was brought in, and then it became a national program. So, whereas the BJP gives a top-down vision, we construct a bottom-up vision. And we're actually in the process of doing that. We spent 10 years with our old vision. That served India. Highest economic growth that India ever had was when we were in government. Narega transformed rural India. RTI was an extremely powerful program. But these were all programs that they came from the bottom. And that's the process that we're doing right now.
There's a prevailing sentiment that Mr. Rahul Gandhi is a slightly reluctant politician, that you're not very accessible, not very open.
There's a machine, there's a BJP machine, about 1,000 guys sitting on computers that basically tell you about me. Okay, they tell you I'm reluctant, they tell you I'm stupid, they tell you all these things. You've seen me now, you guys got to make up your mind. Right? You got to figure that out. But realize that there is a tremendous machine, 1,000 people or so, that all they do is spread abuse about me. And the operation is basically run by the gentleman who's running our country.
There's some people who have asked the question of, the way forward, and there are people who are asking the question about what is the way forward in Kashmir, you think?
For 9 years, I worked behind the scenes with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, with Mr. Chidambaram, with Jairam Ramesh, and a large number of people. And we worked silently on Jammu and Kashmir. In 2013, we had basically broken the back of terrorism in Kashmir. And we hadn't done it by giving big lectures and big stories. We hadn't done it by giving big lectures and stories. We had done it silently. I'll tell you how we did it. We did it by holding Panchayati Raj elections. We did it by linking women to banks, self-help groups. We did it by running a program of getting young Kashmiris, young people from Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, employment in other parts of India, bringing corporates to Jammu and Kashmir, having conversations like this with them, and building their confidence. And then in 2014, the Indian government did something that inflicted a huge, huge strategic cost on India. Today, Jammu and Kashmir, the space in Jammu and Kashmir has been opened up, not only for the Pakistanis, for other players in the region. You know what amazed me was 9 years of work. Going there, talking to people, 9 years, 30 days destroyed. 30 days. And it blew my mind. I was so sad. I was like, my God, 9 years. And it can just be wiped out in 30 days.
We've gotten quite a few questions on your view of the Modi government's performance. I know you mentioned a couple of things in your speech: demonetization, polarization, violence. What are the 2 or 3 key things that you wish they could improve on? And maybe the second part, what are 1 or 2 things that you think the government's actually doing well?
See, I'm an opposition leader, but Mr. Modi is also my Prime Minister. Mr. Modi has certain skills. He's a very good communicator. Probably much better than me. What I sense is that he doesn't converse with the people he works with. I mean, even members of parliament of the BJP come to me and tell me that sunte nahi hai. I mean, there's a lot of information that the opposition, for example, has. And he's not really interested in that input. So that's one aspect of it. On what they've done well, what I like the concept of Make in India. Swachh Bharat is something that Mr. Modi likes. The idea of hygiene, I think it's a good one. I don't think it's a bad one.
A lot of us navigating different career options, figuring out bachelor's to master's degree, grad school, then working in the private sector, public sector. You've navigated all of those before. What is your advice and what has your experience been navigating those career options and your advice to the students in this room?
That's a tough one. I learned economics and, I can't recall when I sort of used what I learned in college in my work. I mean, it's been a long time. General principles you do use, of course, but specifics, not really. But watching people, listening to them from different cultures, getting a sense of where they're coming from, that's a very powerful thing. That to me is something that should be developed.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah. It's been a pleasure, and we can hope we get the chance to have more of these conversations. So thank you, everybody. I'm sorry if your question wasn't heard, but thank you. Really.
Thank you very much.
That was great. Nice, man.